Hello, welcome to UMKC Magazine. I'm Brad Waldo. UMKC Magazine is about the people, the places, and the events at the University of Missouri at Kansas City. We're going to visit the theater production of Nicholas Nickleby, talk to some students who have an interesting hobby, and visit a haunting. But first, we're going to meet one of UMKC's unique personalities, film professor Doug Moore, who tells us that show business is his life.
The first films also to have editing. Remember, we talked about Griffith, who perfected editing, but it was in The Great Train Robbery that people first saw artificially arranged scenes. That's what they were.
Celluloid comes to life when Dr. Doug Moore is behind the projector. He says movies don't even need to talk to be appreciated. In fact, silent films are his favorites.
My earliest interest was in sound films, but as I heard my parents talk about the silents, I longed to see them and was never able to see them until I was able to collect them.
And of course, the films from the silent era, many of them were superb and aesthetically pleasing, in addition to being informing and entertaining.
The movie memorabilia that clutters Dr. Moore's office represents his many travels and his devotion to the cinema. He may be surrounded by stars in his office, but perhaps the biggest star of all is Doug Moore himself.
All the stars as you walk down Hollywood Boulevard. Some that you recognize, some that you hardly even heard of. People who wise
Tell me, how did you first get interested in film?
Well, when I was a kid in the Depression years of the 30s, my parents were almost as broke as anybody else. And entertainment was kind of hard to find. But my parents, as children, had gone to movies in the early days. They were both born near the turn of the century, so they grew up going to the flickers. And that was one form of entertainment that we were able to pursue, that all of America was able to pursue during the Depression. Everybody had a car. It wasn't Hoover or somebody said, America was the only place you can drive to the poorhouse in your car. And we were able to go to movies. Movies cost a dime.
Moore even has a star in his own family, his Aunt Pauline.
Here she was, Pauline Moore, Girl of the Golden West.
Wow.
There's the article, because this was a Western issue in this magazine, and she did play at Republic.
She's a beauty.
She sure was. And Heidi, I think she played the school teacher in Heidi. It's been some years since I've seen that film.
He carries his love of old films to the community by conducting a silent film series at a local movie house. The owner-manager, Denise Putra, feels that Moore's personality contributes to the popularity of the series.
Just not only does he know characters, but he knows stories. He knows specifics on chariot races and Ben-Hur. You know, just the real odd things that most people never would know about.
His interest was spurred by a childhood gift.
Another thing, when I was 5 years old, my father bought for my brother and me for Christmas a motion picture projector. 16-millimeter toy projector, hand crank, and one film. We later got a few more films. I still have that projector. It works fine.
It's not in his office.
Although he loves the silence, some talkies he regards as classics, among them Sunset Boulevard.
I've made up my mind we'll bury him in the garden. Any city laws against that?
Sunset Boulevard is a favorite film of mine in the talkie era, and for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that it is a true-to-life thing with Gloria Swanson. It mentions a famous old silent film star who has been forgotten and is trying for a comeback, a word that she doesn't like in the film, but is trying for a comeback in the sound era. And it's very much true to life. It's a story, it's a movie about movies, and I like, by the way, movies about movies.
How much will it be? I warn you, don't give me a fancy price just because I'm rich.
The young writer sees Norma Desmond, the former star, and he said to her, "Hey, aren't you Norma Desmond? You used to be big. You were a star. You used to be big." And she drew herself up and said,
I am big. It's the picture that got small.
I knew there was something wrong.
They're dead. They're finished. There was a time in the...
When you first hear the name Professor Doug Moore, you're expecting a typical college professor. Quite a few of his students are regular customers at the Fine Arts, and their stories and different class happenings just make you want to attend one of his classes and see what really goes on.
Yes, in the old days, you see, they had tints on the films, and since that was in the past, we refer to that as the past tense. Am I serious?
You can bet he's serious about films and what they represent.
Early motion pictures have accidentally captured what society was like at the time they were being made.
That may be true of those films we all consider classics, but what about present-day movies? Moore says they're every bit as valuable.
They reflect our culture, they reflect our interests, they reflect our morals, they reflect our sentiments, they reflect our technology, and it's more difficult to see now than it will be 20 or 30 years from now, in retrospect, looking back at the films. They will be among the best records of society for future generations.
You mean you're giving up after you told me not to give up?
Oh, you have to make your own decisions now, George. I chose giving up.
Well, I'm not going to move from this spot until...
What's the matter? What is it?
Sounds like a gas.
When we study films in college, it isn't just so much as Mom and Dad saying, what are you going to college for, kid? To watch movies? I'm bringing you home, put you back on the farm. It's like going to medical school to look at beautiful bodies. You're not looking at beautiful bodies, you're dissecting them to see what makes them tick because they relate to what's going on today.
I don't claim to know anything about art.
Repairing fenders is an art form. Putting brake linings on a car is an art form. Carrying out the garbage and shoveling manure, they're both art forms.
Are you a frustrated actor?
No, I'm a real actor. I just go on acting all the time, and the nice part is so many people believe that it's real.
Everybody's a dreamer, everybody's a star, and everybody's in showbiz. Doesn't matter who you are.
All right, DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
I wish my life was another Hollywood movie show, a fantasy world